Hi everyone, welcome to the 613 part 12. In previous part, we have covered all the laws of the Torah. Not 10, not 100, but 613. And I may have missed some, there and there. I'm only human. So today we will not focus on going through the laws as we have already done that, but we will more focus on key facts, fun facts about Torah, right? So this should be very educative for you. So, this whole series is because this topic is so misunderstood today in Christian circles. You will often hear in churches that the law is too difficult to keep, right? How can you keep 613 laws? Well, and if it doesn't bring you salvation, then what good is it? Why should we keep it today in 2025? Okay, so today we will investigate these questions in this teaching. But first I want to state something very important. It may be a shock to you. Not all scriptures are equal. Right? You'll say, what? Because Valerie just read this morning in the 5-minute connection that all scriptures are useful for doctrine, correction, right? But it's just the fact that some scriptures are above, even in the same Bible, and some scriptures are not as important as some. So there's an order, there's a hierarchy. Okay? So the Torah is unique because it was received directly from Elohim. Okay? Yahweh spoke directly to Moses. He did not go through a prophet. Okay? So here in Exodus 24:12 we can read, "Come up to me on the mountain and stay there. I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and commandments which I have written for their instruction." So these were not merely human words inspired by Yahweh, but they were spoken and written by Yahweh himself. That puts the Torah in its own category, and especially the 10 Commandments. This is what we call the Torah. The Torah in Hebrew, it simply means instruction. Right? Actually, the 10 Commandments are unique. Let me just put it right here. So the 10 Commandments are unique. So Yahweh did not speak the 10 Commandments. He wrote that himself. Let's see. He wrote it himself with his own finger. Right? He did not want any misinterpretation. And it's funny because sometimes we will find some things in the 10 Commandments that are not translated the best, like "you shall not kill." Right? We have seen in previous teachings with my brother Jean that it's not kill, it's murder. You shall not murder. So this is a big difference, right? Because if you shall not kill, then when I kill a mosquito, am I breaking the 10 Commandments, right? So there's a big difference. It's you shall not murder, premeditated killing. Also, when Yeshua spoke, he spoke with the full authority of the Father. You see, let's read here in John 12:49-50. "For I have not spoken of my own authority, but the Father who sent me gave me a command what I should say. Therefore, whatever I speak, just as the Father has told me, so I speak." His words are not a mere suggestion or secondary reflections. They are Torah-level truths because he is the Word made flesh, as we find in John 1:14. So, and then we have the writings of the apostles in the New Testament, the letters of Paul and to the churches. And they are definitely inspired scriptures, as we can read in 2 Peter 3:16. But they are filtered through humans. Okay, so Paul, he often distinguishes between his own thoughts and the Torah, or the Elohim's commandments. Okay, so he says in 1 Corinthians 7:12, it says, "To the rest I say, not not the Lord, but I say," right? So this is him making the distinguishing, he's distinguishing in between his word, his recommendation, and what the Torah actually says. And if we read also in 1 Corinthians 7:40, he says, "I think that I too have the Spirit of God." So these are not errors, and they do show that the apostolic letters are more like inspired commentaries in general. Not all of them, of course. And they are all based on Torah or based on the teachings of Yeshua. And then there's the prophets. So the prophets, they received revelation from Elohim, but even in the scriptures, we can see that the prophets did not always understand what they were getting. And this is what Peter says here in 1 Peter 1:10-11. It says, "The prophets searched and inquired carefully about what the Spirit was revealing." And in contrast, when Yahweh spoke to Moses, he spoke to him face to face. Numbers 12:6-8. "Hear my word," he said. "When there is a prophet of Yahweh, I reveal myself in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. In all my house, he is faithful. I speak with him face to face, plainly and not in riddles. He even looks at the form of Yahweh. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" So while prophetic books are inspired, their function is often interpretive, and it is warning-based and future-oriented. It is not like the Torah. So the Torah is instructive and instructional, let's say. That's a hard word. So if we're to rate the scriptures from the most authoritative to the least, it would go like this: the Ten Commandments, the Torah, which is directly from Yah, Yeshua's words directly from Yah again, the prophets, inspired messages filtered through visions and dreams, and the apostolic writings, so spirit-led teaching and exhortation rooted in Torah and the teachings of Yeshua. But, not even in the 613, now we have seen that not all books are equal, but what about the Torah? What about the Torah, right? Is it all equal? No. You will see that not all commandments are equal. Let's read here in Matthew 23, verse 23. It's Yeshua speaking to the Pharisees. He says, "You tithe mint and dill and cumin, but you have neglected the weightier matter of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness." Here we can see that according to Yeshua, some laws are more important than others. This shows that not all commandments are of equal moral weight. Another example is found here in John 19:11. Yeshua answered, "You would have no authority over me." This is Yeshua speaking to Pilate when he's about to get crucified. And he says, "You have no authority over me if it hadn't been given to you from above. For this reason, the one who handed me over to you has the greater sin." So some sins are greater than others. So that obviously would mean that some laws are also of more importance. That's just the way it is. And spoiler alert, we'll get to this in this teaching later on. If you filter the law, the 613, through love, you will get it right. You know, the Torah, it reveals the heart of our Maker. All right? And these are things, there are things that Yahweh loves, okay? And there are things that He delights in. There's things that He tolerates, there's things that He disagrees with, and there are things that He hates. All right? So this is things that you can just remember this. This is very important. And let's see what Yahweh loves. So He loves righteousness, okay? So it is said in Psalm 11:7, it says, "For Yahweh is righteous, He loves justice, the upright will see His face." And then justice, "For I, Yahweh, love justice," Isaiah 61 verse 8. And a cheerful giver, "Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctant or under compulsion, for Elohim loves a cheerful giver," 2 Corinthians 9:7. And then there are things that Yahweh delights in. Okay, so Hosea 6 verse 6, "For I desire mercy and not sacrifice, the knowledge of Elohim more than burnt offerings." And there's Psalm 147:11, "Yahweh takes pleasure in those who fear Him, in those who hope in His mercy." So these are things that He delights in. And then there's things that He tolerates for a time. Okay, Matthew 19:8. "He said to them, Moses, with reference to your hardness of heart, permitted you to divorce your wives, but from the beginning, it was not like this." And also, when in the book of Samuel, when the judges, when the people did not want judges anymore, they wanted a king. It was not a crime to want a king, but it was not something that it was something that He tolerated. He gave them what they wanted. So then Yahweh said to Samuel, "Listen to the voice of the people concerning all that they say to you, for they have not rejected you. They have rejected me from being king over them." And then there's things that Yahweh disagrees with. Isaiah 19:13. "And the Lord said, because this people draw near to me with its mouth, and with its lips it honors me, and its heart is far from me, and their fear of me is a commandment of man that has been taught." He disagrees with commandments of men. Are they wrong? You know, in Judaism, they make a lot of extra commandments that are not found in Torah. Is it wrong? It's not wrong. But He disagrees with that because He wants you to focus on His commandments, not the man-made one. Right? So Matthew 15:8-9, this is repeated by Yeshua. He says, "This people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, far away from me. They worship me in vain, teaching as doctrine commandments of men." And then there's the things that Yahweh hates. Proverbs 6:16-19. There are 6 things that Yahweh hates. Even 7 things are an abomination of His soul. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a devising heart, plans of deception, feet that hurry to run to evil, and a false witness who breathes lies and sends out discord between brothers. You know, whenever there's drama in the congregation, we need to be very careful to pray, to fast, to see how should we take care of this business, right? Because one thing that Yahweh hates is someone who sows discord in between the brothers. Now, you know, as we know, we're all humans, we're flawed, we have problems, we go through things, but we're a body, we're united. And we need to take care of one another, right? So there's another thing that he hates. It's found in Malachi 2:16. It says, "For I hate divorce," says Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, "and he who covers his clothing with violence," says Yahweh of hosts. "You must be attentive to your spirit, and you must not be unfaithful." And then in Deuteronomy 12:31 it says, "You must not do so towards Yahweh your Elohim, because every detestable thing that they have done for their gods, Yahweh hates. Even their sons and their daughters, they would burn in the fire to their gods." And then in Amos 5:21, I despise your festival. I take no delight in your assembly." The Torah, again, it reveals the heart of Yahweh. Imagine living without the Torah. It would be impossible to know what Yahweh truly wants from us. Can you imagine being married to someone without knowing what they like or want from you? I hope you never have to go through that kind of marriage. And so instead of looking at the law like a list, a chore list, something painful, so many rules, it's actually a privilege. We have the cheat sheet. It's like a cheat sheet that gives us the codes in order to win at honoring our king, our bridegroom, because he's coming back very soon, and we must be the virgins who stay pure for him. And how do we stay pure for him? Well, Yahweh, we just saw things that he loves, we saw things that he delights in, disagrees with, and all that. Come on. If you were to get married to someone and you see the bride and she's covered she's covered in pig poop or whatever, it's disgusting. Well, you don't want to be disgusting to your bridegroom. You want to be appealing. You want to look pure. You want to be a virgin, very appealing, attracting. And this is the type of bride that we are thriving to be. And he let us know his heart. So if we know his heart, then we can, we have the cheat sheet in order to be what he wants us to be. Isn't that a privilege, right? And did you know that the word Torah in Hebrew, it has a numerical value? That's what we call gematria. We have the Tav for the T, and it's worth 400 in numerical value. And then we have the Vav, which is 6, and the Resh, which is 200, and the He, which is 5. And very interestingly, if we add them all up together, it makes 611. Now, this is a very interesting number because we're just 2 commandments away from getting the full 613. And when Yeshua spoke in Matthew 22:38-40, he said, "This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like this: love your neighbor as yourself, and love Yah with all your heart." All the law and the prophet hangs on these 2 commandments. Now, this means that you need to filter all the law through love again, right? But on a deeper level, if you observe the 613, the numerical value is 611. But when we add these 2 commandments, it makes 613, so we get the whole Torah. So the Torah is only complete when you do it with love. Yeshua, he's got multiple layers of prophetic understanding in everything that he says. This is why we must study scriptures to show ourselves approved. And when we do, we will find out that there are multiple layers in everything that he says. Everything that he said has deeper meaning, prophetic value, things we don't even understand yet. But for those who study, they will eventually. Okay, so now, are there any musicians in the room? Yes? Do you play piano? A little bit? Okay. So this is going to speak to the musicians, okay? And I'm sorry for those who are not musicians, but just try to grasp a little bit of what I'm saying here, okay? So in advanced musical theory, we have something called the tonic notes, which are in red. We have the subdominant notes, which are in blue. And we have the dominant notes, which are in green. Okay? Now this is what we call a scale, right? And for this example, we will use the scale of Do, the most basic one. So the tonic notes are used in order to harmonize or to use as a base to harmonize with subdominant notes in a scale and dominant notes. So they are kind of like the water in the recipe of a soup, right? This is why we call it tonic. It's the base. And if you notice here, I have put the other one. So you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so this is a scale here, the scale of Do. But when you place your hand on the tonics, you will always place your hand, because it is just the way it is. It's what musicians do on a scale. They will place their hand for the left. On the tonics, it will be 6, 1, 3. It will always be like that. It's just a kind of a law, if you want to say, that musicians know in advanced musical theory. And it's just the base in order to harmonize with the other notes. Okay, when you make a, I'm missing the word here, but it is a chord. Yes, thank you. And I think you know what I'm talking about. So here we are. You know, it's funny that we can also see this play out in music, because just as you know, the tonic can be 6, 1, 3 in any scale. In any scale, it works like that. You will place your hand on the 6, 1, 3 and then harmonize. Well, when you use the law as the tonic of your life, the base of your life, you will be more harmonious in everything else that you do afterward. All right? And so just as we play better with music and with this principle, it's the same in life. So that's just something I couldn't leave out. I know that it may or may not speak to you, but I wanted to mention it. And also, did you know that in Ottawa, this is the place in the world where we have the most Torah observant believers? Just kidding, okay? Am I stretching this too far? Yeah. You know, maybe we don't have the most Torah observant believers, but look how many brothers and sisters are here today, right? And I'm so blessed to see my brothers and sisters on every Shabbat. You know, we may not be the biggest church, but we have a lot to offer. All right? Now, for those who are more visual, here is a representation of the Torah. Okay? And we're going to see, we're going to break it down a little bit, okay? So, not every law apply to everyone, okay? So, the ones that apply to everyone, they are in green. And it's honor Sabbath, observe festival, be honest, don't steal, love your neighbor, cleanliness, and food laws. Now, there are some that applies only to kings. Rule fairly, avoid excess, and stay humble. The priests and Levites, temple duties and ritual blessings. And farmers, so you have rules for crops, charity, land rest. Judges, fair ruling, no bribe, weight testimony. For men, circumcisions and duties. For women, family roles, modesty, purity. For animals, kind treatment, Sabbath rest. Married people, respect, intimacy, care. And the Israelites, land-based laws, tithes, pilgrimage, servants and owners, so fair work, kind treatment, and proper release. So often, for us Torah observant people, we hear Christians say, how do you expect to keep 613 laws? Okay? It seems like it's way too much. You can't keep it perfectly, but just as we've seen, there are some in the 613 laws that are only for the priests. There are some that are only for the temple. And we saw in previous teachings how it is actually against the law to practice some of them. Some we just cannot keep. So, some will make fun of us because we can't observe them. They will say, you see, you can't keep all the law after all. And we'll say, well, this is true. But just because we cannot keep the whole law, it doesn't mean that we are breaking the law. For example, if you don't own a car, well, you don't need to worry about the road rules. And that does not mean that you're breaking the law. No, it only means that you do not need to practice them because it doesn't apply to you. And it's the same for the Torah. It doesn't mean that the law is now worthless. You can throw it out the window. The law regulates things, but it doesn't mean that all categories will apply to you. So, Jenan, she did a teaching about Babylon. And, the Jewish people, they were in exile in Babylon. And while they were in exile in Babylon, they could not keep the temple laws. They could not keep the king laws, the laws of the kings, because it was a Babylonian king there. They could not keep the land rest, the Shemitah and the Jubilee. They could not keep a lot of the laws that we have seen in this series. Did they start eating pork? We know that they didn't, because Daniel, he refused the delicacy of the king while he was in Babylon under the king Nebuchadnezzar. And he was blessed for it. And actually, the people in, the Jews in Babylon were blessed because they were keeping the law, so they were able to go back in the land to build the second temple and to repopulate Jerusalem and Judea, to start living their faith once again. And just as the Jews there were in captivity, they were dispersed in dispersion, we are also in dispersion right now. So not all the laws we can keep today. It's very important to know that, because one day when Yeshua comes back, he will bring us out. He will destroy Babylon, and we will be able to live his Torah perfectly. And it will not be our interpretation of the Torah, it will be his interpretation of the Torah. And that will be the true Torah and the true faith that will be restored then. But until then, we must do our best to keep it, to honor him. Amen. All right, back to theory. So according to traditional grouping, here are 10 categories of the 613 mitzvot. So there's belief in Elohim, so commandments about knowing, loving, and fearing Elohim. There's Torah and learning, so studying Torah, honoring scholars. There's prayer and temple service, so including sacrifice, priestly duties, and temple rituals. There's ritual purity, so laws on impurity and purification. There's dietary laws, so blessed food and forbidden mixtures. There's festivals and Sabbaths, so they speak for themselves. There's civil and criminal justice, judges, theft, damage. Marriage and family, laws of marriage, divorce, and family relationship. There's social injustice, charity, helping the poor, fairness in business, and idolatry and other faiths, prohibition against idolatry and sorcery. So in Jewish tradition, there are 613 commandments in the Torah. They include 248 positive commandments, things that we're supposed to do, and 365 negative commandments, so things that you shouldn't do. And, these have been organized by Rambam, so that's Maimonides, in his book. Okay, we will get into that here. So it is actually found in the Talmud. Okay, so this is Talmud Makot 23b, 24a. Rabbi Simlai taught 613 were given to Moses, 365 negative commandments corresponding to the days of the solar year, and 248 positive commandments corresponding to the numbers of limbs in a human body. And this passage, it comes from, so the 613, it comes straight from the Talmud. And it is this passage here is the foundational source of the 613. However, the Talmud itself doesn't provide a complete list. That task was taken up by later scholar Rambam in his Sefer HaMitzvot, which is the book of commandments and Mishneh Torah. Ancient Jewish traditions link 248 to the number of bones or organs in the human body, and they link 365 to the days of the solar year. So you're literally meant to embody the mitzvot every day in every part of you. Now, that sounds good, right? But is it true? Just the fact about human body is that it's got 200 bones, 650 muscles, and 79 organs. Not quite 248. And so we can see that the Talmud's number are wrong here. Another reason to be careful about Talmudic interpretation. Now, I'm not saying that this throws the 613 concept right out the window, but you just got to be careful here. And you're still meant to live the Torah every day of the year and embody it. However, as we have seen in previous teaching, the rabbis across the ages have extracted Torah laws where there were none. Also some commandments are interpreted as two or three when they could be just one. Actually, in this series, we have went through many examples where there were three commandments, but it really just meant the same thing, and they just, extracted it like that. The truth is that the Torah is not a checklist. It's a way of life. It's a guide for daily actions and choices. It shapes value, character, and it's a heritage. It connects you to others and to Elohim. Each mitzvah has meaning beyond the act, and the focus is growth, not perfection. It's about being, not just doing. Living the Torah is a lifelong journey, and we're meant to embody it, not just study it. So let me put it this way. When you're 2 years old, your parents will come to you and they will tell you, you got to focus on this and that. And when you're 2 years old, you will focus on a couple things there, okay? And when you're 5 years old, you're not struggling with these things anymore. So your parents will come to you and they will say, now I'm giving you this, and that to focus on, a little bit more. So you take it on and you just focus on that. When you're 10 years old, well, maybe the list is getting a little bit longer, but you're not struggling with the same things you were struggling with when you were 2 or 5 years old. but it's new things and you're focusing on that. Same thing, when you're 16 years old, the list is a lot longer, you got more responsibilities, but you're not struggling with what you used to, so you're focusing on that. Okay? And then, when you're an adult, all these things you're not worried about, you mastered it. It's easy now. It became your way of life. And this is how we should treat new believers that come in the Torah. We can't expect people to just do the whole law at once. You focus with a little bit at the beginning, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and guess what? If you do it this way, it becomes easy. Actually, in Deuteronomy 30:11-14, it says, "Now what I am commanding you today is not too difficult or beyond your reach. It is not up in the heavens so that you may ask, who will ascend into heaven to get it and proclaim it to us so that we may obey it? Nor is it beyond the sea so that you have to ask, who will come across the sea and get it and proclaim it to us so that we may obey it? No, the word is very near to you. It is in your mouth and in your heart so that you may obey it." Right? Yahweh says his law is not difficult. Some say it's impossible to keep perfectly. True, the righteous will fall 7 times and get back up. But thinking his law is too hard is just wrong. Once it becomes our way of life, it's not too hard. You know, Yahweh doesn't lie. If he says it's easy, don't make it hard. In 1 John 5:3, it says, "In fact, this is the love for Elohim, to keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome." This is what it means to love Yahweh. Christians love to say, there's no more laws. We just need to love God and our neighbor. This is the whole of the law. Well, when we call the law a burden, is this very loving towards God? You know, to say that there are no longer laws to obey, that the law is outdated, it's kind of like saying that you can now do whatever you want. And it's kind of like someone called Aleister Crowley wrote in his book. You know his book, The Satanic Bible? And it says, "Do as thou wilt will be the whole of the law." Now this guy, he's worshipped in Hollywood by many artists, Led Zeppelin and all these big artists. You know, they try to imitate and follow after his example, worshiping the devil. And let's face it, our hearts are wicked. Ever since we bit the fruit of knowledge of good and evil in the garden, then we want to decide what is good and evil. It's part of us, sadly. But it is not up to us to decide what is good and evil. It is up to him. So this is why we need to go back. We need to teshuvah. We need to repent and go back to his Torah in order to know what is right and wrong. Amen. So why keep the law besides showing that we love Yah? For answers, we need to look in the Torah itself. So, you know, us Christians, we focus on salvation. It's all about salvation, and it's because we have been brought up to focus on only that. But in the Bible, there are many other concepts besides salvation. You know, there's the promises that Yahweh made to his people. You know, a promise, it's kind of like a covenant. And once you make a promise, you're not supposed to break it. And you know, in the churches, they say that the new covenant, it replaced the old covenant. And now, he doesn't need to honor his old promises because he made new promises that annuls the old one. But let's be honest. If I was to make you a promise today, and then tomorrow I make another promise, I say I don't have to keep the old promise, would you be happy with me? Of course not. This is not how it works. And you know, Yahweh, he's the same always. Okay? In Hebrews 13:8, it says Yeshua the Messiah is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If Elohim is the same, he doesn't change. This means that his promises don't change. You can count on them to come to pass. That actually is what the law is all about. It's not about salvation. I know it's a shocker. The law was never meant to save us. According to the Torah, the law is there to bless those who keep it and to curse those who reject it. In 1 John 3:4, it says, whoever sins is breaking the law, the Torah. In fact, sin is lawlessness or Torahlessness. You know, it's kind of like the law of gravity. What goes up must come down. In the same manner, in the eyes of our Creator, what has sinned must die. So those who break the Torah, they are sinning, and they have confessed that Jesus is Lord. But if they die in their sin, they will not be saved. You know, in Matthew 7:21-23, it says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. You know, this passage is so clear. Yet many take these words lightly. Time is short. It's very short. You don't want to die in your sin. You need to repent. Go back to His Word. Go back to His perfect will. Because you want to do the will of the Father if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven. And the question is, will you come into His kingdom? In conclusion, not all scriptures are equal. Not all laws are equal. Things Yahweh loves, likes, tolerates, disagrees with, and things that He hates. We have seen that, you know, the two greatest commandments, to love your neighbor as yourself and to love Elohim with all your heart, if you add them with the numerical value of the Torah, you get 611 plus 2, it makes 613, a perfect picture. It's kind of like a riddle or a joke. 613 is even found in advanced musical theory. The law is not a checklist, it's a way of life. So if you want to live, you need to keep it. That's going to be it for today.
Sorry. That was so good. I told Fred I think this was the best of the 12. Hey. It's very good. It's all him. And you know what really touched me about this is that the law, it's not a checklist. Too many people, they try to use, okay, well, what's the list? I gotta, make sure I do this. It's a way of life. And if we love God as we proclaim that we do, I love what he says here. We know what Yahweh loves, what he likes, what he disagrees with, and what he hates. We know his heart. We know how we can please him. To know his heart, that's the most important, and trying to please him. Not a checklist, but out of love, as for you do for your spouse. You know how much she loves to have a tea ready waiting for her when she comes downstairs in the morning. So you turn on the kettle and you put a tea bag in. Doesn't take much. When you know how to please our God, read the Bible, study it in that way. Eager to seek the truth, to want to please our God. When we take that approach, rather than a legalistic, okay, what's the list? Check, check, check. That doesn't please him. We're not doing it out of love for him. But when we study the Word, we want to know what He loves, what He finds pleasure in, and what He dislikes, and what He hates. Those things we must pay attention to. Those have to become our heart. You know? There's a song I love. It says, "Break my heart for what breaks yours." Crying out to God. We want to know His heart. And those things have to break our heart. Just the things that break His. And the things that make Him rejoice, those are the things we want to do. We want to make Him smile. This is what being a Torah observant is all about. I love how he says it's all filtered through love, right? The two greatest commandments: love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. The whole Torah, if you look at it through those lens of love, not a checklist, not a, okay, let's do, no. We're doing it out of love for Him. That was amazing, Fred. Great job. I look forward to part 13. See if he can outdo himself again. Let's pray. Lord, thank you because you love us so much that you wrote it down in your book, in the Torah. You showed us how we can love you back. You can show us your heart, what pleases you, what upsets you. And Lord, out of love for you, we want to do the things that are right. We want to be righteous in your eyes. We want to hear those words when you come back, "Well done, good and faithful servant," because we want to please you. And Lord, I pray that as we meditate on this teaching, whether we listen to it online or we're here today, may we walk away and we really sound our hearts and look, why are we doing this? Why are we keeping the Torah? Are we trying to make ourselves righteous by doing the list? Or are we really looking to please you? And this is a way of knowing your heart, this Torah, by studying it. And all we want to do is please you, Lord. Lord, I pray that we examine ourselves this week, we check ourselves in the mirror, and that we get on our knees and we seek to honor you, to please you with our lives. And I pray for each of you here today. I pray that the Lord will bless you and keep you, that the Lord will make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you, that the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, amen.